Today, we're diving into one of the most successful teams in international football history, Brazil. When we talk about the kings of world football, one name stands above the rest: Brazil. The country has a footballing legacy like no other, and if we look at their World Cup record, it's no surprise. Brazil has won an impressive 5 World Cups, more than any other nation. Their World Cup statistics are staggering. Brazil has played 114 matches to date, winning 76 of them, scoring a total of 1,129 goals, and racking up 247 points in the process. And here's something truly mind-blowing. Brazil is the only team to have participated in every single FIFA World Cup since its inception. That's consistency on a legendary scale. They've also never had to fight through the playoffs to get to the tournament. They've always qualified directly. Now that's what you call dominance. But here's the thing. While Brazil's history is unmatched, their present is a bit shaky. If we glance at the current CONMEBOL FIFA World Cup qualifiers, Brazil sits in 4th place. Now, considering their reputation, that's a little worrying. But there's a bit of good fortune on Brazil's side. Starting with the 2026 FIFA World Cup, the tournament is expanding from 32 to 48 teams. That means instead of just 4 South American teams getting automatic qualification, with one potentially making it via the playoffs, now 6 teams will qualify directly. So, even if Brazil finishes 6th in the CONMEBOL standings, they'll still secure a place in the World Cup. Lucky, right? But still, it's a far cry from the days when they'd steamroll their way to qualification without a second thought. Before we get deeper into what's been going wrong for Brazil in recent years, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and share this video with your friends and family if you're enjoying the content. Your support keeps us going. Now, Brazil isn't just any football team. If you stop a random person on the street, whether in New York, London, or anywhere else in the world, and ask them to name a football team, Brazil is likely to be the first name out of their mouths. You don't even have to be a football fan to know that Brazil and football are practically synonymous. That iconic yellow jersey, the electrifying skill of players like Pelé, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, it's all etched into global culture. But recently, it feels like something is off with this legendary footballing nation. So, the question is, what's happened? How has the most successful football team in history found itself struggling to qualify for the World Cup? There are a few major reasons behind Brazil's decline, and we're going to break them down one by one. First off, let's talk about the people in charge, the board that runs Brazilian football. If you compare Brazil's domestic league, Serie A, to some of the top leagues in Europe, the differences are stark. Corruption has deeply rooted itself in Brazilian football, and the league is mismanaged on many levels. Out of 20 teams in the league, 14 have betting companies as their primary shirt sponsors. Now, that's not inherently a problem. After all, many teams around the world have betting sponsors. But in Brazil, it's created a huge issue. Betting companies have not only taken over sponsorship, but they've also found ways to get directly involved with the players. Many players are now featured in advertisements for these companies, and in exchange, they receive huge sums of money that can only be used as credit on the betting sites. This has led to a wave of match-fixing scandals, with multiple players caught up in these schemes. In 2023 alone, numerous players were implicated in betting-related controversies, and because Brazil's laws surrounding betting are fairly lenient, they got off with minimal punishment. Compare this to Europe, where similar offenses can end a player's career. And this creates an even bigger issue. Brazilian players who get involved in these scandals can easily return home to play without facing the consequences they would in Europe. One prime example is Luis Henrique, who was playing for Marseille in France but returned to Botafogo in Brazil after being investigated for a betting scandal. And what's even worse is that the Brazilian Football Board is fully aware of these issues. But because the clubs and the board itself are making so much money from these betting companies, they turn a blind eye. Money talks. And unfortunately, it seems to be louder than integrity right now. The second issue is the Europeanization of Brazil's young talent. In the past, Brazil's top talents grew and developed within the country's footballing system, honing their skills in the unique Brazilian style of play, one that's all about flair, creativity, and expressive football. But these days, young talents are being scooped up by European clubs at increasingly younger ages before they've had a chance to fully develop their skills in Brazil. Take players like Endrick, who signed for Real Madrid at a ridiculously young age, or Wesley from Fluminense, who's now with Wolves in the Premier League. The problem is that these players don't get the opportunity to develop in Brazil's football culture, so by the time they're playing at the highest level, a lot of that iconic Brazilian flair is lost. They become more structured, more mechanical, great players, no doubt, But they lose that Joga Bonito essence that made players like Ronaldinho and Kaká so magical to watch. Back in 2002, when Brazil last won the World Cup, about half of the squad was still playing in the Brazilian League. Fast forward to 2022, and only 3 players from the Brazilian League made the squad, and none of them were starters. The third issue is Brazil's current coaching philosophy. Brazilian football has always been about individual expression, but modern football has taken a turn towards tactical rigidity and pragmatic play. It's all about structure now, staying safe, not taking risks, and that's just not Brazil's style. When Brazil won the 2002 World Cup, players like Ronaldinho, Rivaldo, and Ronaldo were given the freedom to express themselves on the field. But in recent years, we've seen Brazil's creativity stifled under a more tactical and cautious system. Sure, Tite, Brazil's former manager, brought some defensive stability, and players like Thiago Silva were crucial in holding the team together during tournaments like the 2019 Copa America. But that defensive solidity came at a cost. Brazil's attack lacked firepower, and even with Neymar in his prime, the team wasn't able to fully capitalize on their attacking potential. And here's a question: how do you expect Brazilian football to flourish when players are told to play safe? Can you imagine if someone had told Ronaldinho, in his prime, to avoid taking on defenders, to stick to sideways passes, to avoid losing the ball at all costs? We wouldn't have seen the magic that made him one of the greatest players of all time. The same applies to Neymar, to Vinicius Jr., to all the talents Brazil produces. If these players are forced into a rigid, mechanical system, their natural brilliance gets lost. So, while Brazil may still be producing top talents, their system isn't allowing these players to flourish in the way they should. Lastly, Brazil's leadership and team spirit are lacking. If you look at the Brazil squads of the past, they had leaders. Players who played with passion, who wore the badge with pride, who'd give everything for their country. But right now, that sense of pride and honor seems to be fading. The current team seems disconnected, both from each other and from the importance of wearing that famous yellow shirt. There's no chemistry, no synergy, and no real leadership on the pitch. And when players don't feel that connection, it shows in their performances. So, can Brazil make a comeback? Will they reclaim their place as a powerhouse in world football? The talent is still there, but until the system changes, until they stop selling their young stars to Europe too soon, until they bring in a manager who embraces Brazil's footballing identity, until the board gets its act together and fixes the league, Brazil will continue to struggle. But hey, Brazil's luck is still strong. With 6 South American teams guaranteed a place in the 2026 World Cup, they'll qualify. But the real question is, will they be contenders or just participants? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Can Brazil turn it around in time for the next World Cup? And don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and of course, hit that subscribe button for more content like this. I'll catch you in the next one. Until then, take care and peace.